Lai Su Bribes Lu Pu. What Tsao said was this: the eunuch evil is of very old standing, but the real cause of the present trouble is in the improper influence allowed them by the ruler, and the misplaced favoritism they have enjoyed. But a jailer would be ample force to employ against the evil. Why increase confusion by summoning troops from the provinces? Any desire to slay them will speedily become known, and the plan will fail. Then Meung Ter, you have some scheme of your own to further, said Ho with a sneer. Ho Chin is the man to throw the empire into confusion, retorted Tsao. Then Ho Chin sent swift, secret letters far and wide. It must be recalled here that the now powerful Tung Cho had failed in his attempt to destroy the Yellow Turban Rebellion, and would have been punished but for the protection of the 10 eunuchs, whom he had bribed heavily. Later he obtained an important military command in the West, but he was treacherous and disloyal at heart. So when he received the summons to the capital, he rejoiced greatly and lost no time in obeying it. He left a son-in-law Niu Fu to hold Shaanxi and set out for Luoyang. Lai Ju, his advisor and son-in-law, said, though a formal summons has come, there are many obscurities in it. It would be well to send up a memorial stating plainly our aims and intentions. Then we can proceed. So he composed one something like this: thy servant knows that the continual rebellions owe their origin to the eunuchs who act counter to all recognized precept. Now to stop the ebullition of a pot the best way is to withdraw the fire. To cut out an abscess, though painful, is better than to nourish the evil. I have dared to undertake a military advance on the capital, and now pray that Chang Jiang and the other eunuchs be removed for the happiness of the dynasty and of the whole land. Ho Chin read this memorial and showed it to his partisans. Then said Cheng Ti, a fierce wild beast, if he come his prey will be men. Ho Chin replied, you are too timorous, you are unequal to great schemes. But Lu Chi also said, long have I known this man. In appearance innocent, he is a very wolf at heart. Let him in and calamity enters with him. Stop him. Do not let him come, and thus will you avoid confusion. Ho Chin was obstinate, and both these men gave up their posts and retired, as did more than half the ministers of state, while Ho Chin sent a warm welcome to Tung Cho, who soon camped at Ying Pool. The eunuchs knew this move was directed against them, and recognized that their only chance for safety was to strike the first blow. So they first hid a band of armed ruffians in the palace at the Gate of Abundant Virtue, and then went in to see the empress. They said, the general, feigning to act under command, has called up armies to the capital to destroy us. We pray you, grandmother, to pity and save us. Go to the general and confess your faults, said she. If we did, then should we be cut to mincemeat. Rather summon the general into your presence and command him to cease. If he will not, then we pray but to die in your presence. She issued the requisite command, and Ho was just going to her when Chern Lin advised him not to enter, saying the eunuchs were certainly behind the order and meant him harm. But Ho could only see the command of the empress and was blind to all else. The plot is no longer a secret, said Yuan Shan. Still you may go if you are ready to fight your way in. Get the eunuchs out first, said Tsao. Silly children, said Ho. What can they do against the man who holds the forces of the empire in the palm of his hand? Xiao said, if you will go, then we will come as a guard just as a precaution. Whereupon both he and Tsao chose a half company of the best men under their command, at whose head they placed a brother of Yuan Shao, named Shu. Yuan Shu, clad in mail, drew up his men outside the Qingzhou gate while the other two went as escort. When Ho Chin neared the palace, the eunuchs said, the orders are to admit the general and none other. So the escort was detained outside. Ho Chin went in proudly. At the Gate of Abundant Virtue he was met by the two chief eunuchs, and their followers quickly closed in around him. Ho began to feel alarmed. Then Chang Jiang in a harsh voice began to revile him. What crime had Tung Ti committed that she should have been put to death? And when the mother of the country was buried, who feigned sickness and did not attend, we raised you and your paltry, huckstering family to all the dignity and wealth you have, and this is your gratitude. You would slay us. You call us sordid and dirty. Who is the cleaner? Ho Chin was panic-stricken and looked about for a way to escape. But the eunuchs closed him in, and then the assassins appeared and did their bloody work. Closing the days of the hands, and the years of their rule were near spent. Stupid and tactless was Ho Chin, yet stood he highest in office. Many were they who advised him, but he was deaf as he heard not. Wherefore fell he a victim under the swords of the eunuchs. So Ho Chin died. Yuan Shao waited long. By and by, impatient at the delay, he called through the gate, "Thy carriage waits, O general." For reply, the head of the murdered officer was flung over the wall. A decree was proclaimed that Ho Chin had contemplated treachery and therefore had been slain. It pardoned his adherents. Yuan Shao shouted, "The eunuchs have slain the minister. Let those who will slay this wicked party come and help me." Then one of Ho Chin's officers set fire to the gate. Yuan Shu at the head of his men burst in and fell to slaying the eunuchs without regard to age or rank. Yuan Shao and Tsao broke into the inner part of the palace. 4 of the eunuchs fled to the Blue Flower Lodge where they were hacked to pieces. Fire raged, destroying the buildings. 4 of the eunuchs led by Chang Jiang carried off the empress, the heir apparent and the prince of Chern Liu toward the North Palace. Lu Qi, since he had resigned office, was at home, but hearing of the revolution in the palace he donned his armor, took his spear and prepared to fight. He saw the eunuch Tuan Kui hurrying the empress along and called out, "You rebels! How dare you abduct the empress?" The eunuch fled. The empress leaped out of a window and was taken to a place of safety. Wu Keiwang burst into one of the inner halls where he found Ho Mayo, sword in hand. "You also were in the plot to slay your brother," cried he. "You shall die with the others." "Let us kill the plotter against his elder brother," cried many. Mayo looked around. His enemies hemmed him in on every side. He was hacked to pieces. Shao bade his soldiers scatter and seek out all the families of the eunuchs, sparing none. In that slaughter, many beardless men were killed in error. Tsao set himself to extinguish the fires. He then begged Ho Tiaihu to undertake the direction of affairs, and soldiers were sent to pursue Chang Jiang and rescue the young emperor. The 2 chief eunuchs, Chang Jiang and Tuan Kui, had hustled away the emperor and the prince of Chern Liu. They burst through the smoke and fire and traveled without stopping till they reached the Peimeng Hills. It was then the 3rd watch. They heard a great shouting behind them and saw soldiers in pursuit. Their leader was shouting, "Stop, stop!" Chang Jiang, seeing that he was lost, jumped into the river where he was drowned. The 2 boys, ignorant of the meaning of all this confusion and terrified out of their senses, dared not utter a cry. They crept in among the rank grass on the river bank and hid. The soldiers scattered in all directions but failed to find them. So they remained till the 4th watch, shivering with cold from the drenching dew and very hungry. They lay down in the thick grass and wept in each other's arms, silently, lest anyone should discover them. "This is no a place to stay in," said the prince. "We must find some way out." So the two children knotted their clothes together and managed to crawl up the bank. They were in a thicket of thorn bushes and it was quite dark. They could not see any path. They were in despair when, all at once, millions of fireflies sprang up all about them and circled in the air in front of the emperor. "God is helping us," said the prince. They followed whither the fireflies led and gradually got into a road. They walked till their feet were too sore to go further, when, seeing a heap of straw near the road, they crept to it and lay down. This heap of straw was close to a farmhouse. In the night, as the farmer was sleeping, he saw in a vision two bright red suns drop behind his dwelling. Alarmed by the portent, he hastily dressed and went forth to look about him. Then he saw a bright light shooting up from a heap of straw. He hastened thither, and then saw two youths lying behind it. "To what household do you belong, young gentlemen?" asked he. The emperor was too frightened to reply, but his companion said, "He is the emperor. There has been a revolution in the palace and we ran away. I am his brother, Prince of Liu." The farmer bowed again and said, "I am the brother of a former official and my name is Tsui. My brother was disgusted with the behavior of the eunuchs and so resigned and hid away here." The two lads were taken into the farm, and their host on his knees served them with refreshment. It has been said that Min Kung had gone in pursuit of the eunuch Tung. By and by Kung overtook him and cried, "Where is the emperor? He disappeared. I do not know where he is." Kung slew him and hung the bleeding head on his horse's neck. Then he sent his men searching in all directions and he rode off by himself on the same quest. Presently he came to the farm. Tsui, seeing what hung on his horse's neck, questioned him and, satisfied with his story, led him to the emperor. The meeting was affecting. All were moved to tears. "The state cannot be without its ruler," said Min Kung. "I pray your majesty to return to the city." At the farm they had but one sorry nag, and this they saddled for the emperor. The young prince was taken on Min Kung's charger, and thus they left the farm. Soon they fell in with other officials, and the several guards and soldiers made up an imposing cavalcade. Tears were shed freely as the ministers met their emperor. A man was sent on in front to the capital there, to expose the head of the eunuch Tung. As soon as they could, they placed the emperor on a better steed, and the young prince had a horse to himself. Thus the emperor returned to Luoyang, and so it happened after all as the street boys' ditty ran. Though the emperor doesn't rule, though the prince no office fills, yet a brilliant cavalcade comes along from Paimeng Hills. The cavalcade had not proceeded far when they saw coming towards them a large body of soldiers, with fluttering banners hiding the sun and raising a huge cloud of dust. The officials turned pale, and the emperor was greatly alarmed. Yuan Shao rode out in advance and demanded who they were. From under the shade of an embroidered banner rode out an officer demanding if they had seen the emperor. His Majesty was too panic-stricken to respond, but the Prince of Liu rode to the front and cried, "Who are you?" Tung Cho replied, giving his name and rank. "Have you come to protect the chariot or to steal it?" said the prince. "I have come to protect," said Tung Cho. "If that is so, the emperor is here. Why do you not dismount?" Cho hastily dismounted and made obeisance on the left of the road. Then the prince spoke graciously to him. From first to last, the prince had carried himself most perfectly, so that Cho in his heart admired his behavior. And then arose the first desire to set aside the emperor in favor of the prince. They reached the palace the same day, and there was an affecting interview with Ho Tiaihu. But when they had restored order in the palace, the hereditary seal, the special seal of the emperor, was missing. Tung Cho camped without the walls, but every day he was to be seen in the streets with an escort of mailed soldiers, so that the common people were in a state of constant trepidation. He also went in and out of the palace careless of all the rules of propriety. Pao Hsin spoke of his behavior to Yuan Shao, saying, "This man harbors some evil design and should be removed." "Nothing can be done till the government is more settled," said Shao. Then he saw Wang Yun and asked what he thought. "Let us talk it over," was the reply. Pao Hsin said no more, but he left the capital and retired to Tiantian. Tung Cho induced the soldiers of the two brothers Ho to join his command, and privately spoke to his advisor about deposing the emperor in favor of the prince of Liu. "The government is really without a head. There can be no better time than this to carry out your plan. Delay will spoil all. Tomorrow assemble the officials in the Warnaming Garden and address them on the subject. Put all opponents to death and your prestige is settled." So spoke his advisor, and the words pleased Tung Cho mightily. So the next day he spread a feast and invited many guests. As all the officers went in terror of him, no one dared be absent. He himself rode up to the garden last of all and took his place with his sword girded on. When the wine had gone round several times, Tung Cho stopped the service and the music and began to speak. "I have something to say. Listen quietly, all of you." All turned towards him. "The emperor is lord of all, and if he lacks dignity and behaves in an unseemly manner, he is no fitting inheritor of the ancestral prerogatives. He who is now on the throne is a weakling, inferior to the prince of Liu in intelligence and love of learning. The prince is in every way fitted for the throne. I desire to depose the emperor and set up the prince in his place. What think you?" The assembly listened in perfect silence, none daring at first to utter a word of dissent. But one dared, for suddenly a guest stood up in his place, smote the table and cried, "No, no! Who are you that you dare utter such bold words? The emperor is the son of the lawful consort and has done no wrong. Why then should he be deposed? Are you a rebel?" The speaker was Ting Yuan, governor of Qinchao. Cho glared at him. "There is life for those who are with me, death for those against," roared he. He drew his sword and made for the objector. But the watchful Lai Ju had noticed standing behind Ting Yuan a particularly dangerous-looking henchman of his, who was now handling his spear threateningly, and whose eyes were blazing with anger. So he hastily interposed, saying, "But this is the banquet chamber and state affairs should be left outside. The matters can be fully discussed tomorrow." His fellow guests persuaded Ting Yuan to leave, and after his departure Tung Cho said, "Is what I said just and reasonable?" "You are mistaken, illustrious sir," said Lu Qi. "Of old one Tai Chia was unenlightened, wherefore I Yin immured him in the Tiang palace till he reformed. Later too Prince Chang I ascended the throne, and in less than a month he committed more than 3,000 categorical faults. Wherefore Ho Quang, the regent, declared in the ancestral temple that he was deposed. Our present emperor is young, but he is intelligent, benevolent, and wise. He has not committed a single fault. You, sir, are not a metropolitan official and have had no experience in state administration. Neither have you the pure intentions of Yin which qualified his actions. Without that justification, such an act is presumption." Tung Cho angrily drew his sword to slay the bold speaker, but another official remonstrated. "President Lu is the cynosure of the whole country, and his violent death would stir the hearts of all men," said Piang Po. Then Tung Cho stayed his hand. Then said Wang Yun, "A great question like the deposition and substitution of emperors is not one to be decided after a wine party. Let it be put off till another time." So the guests dispersed. Cho stood at the gate with drawn sword watching them depart. Standing thus he noticed a spearman galloping to and fro on a fiery steed, and asked Lai Ju if he knew him. "That is Lu Pu, the adopted son of Ting Yuan. His ordinary name is Ferncian. You must keep out of his way, my lord." Tung Cho went inside the gate so that he could not be seen. But next day, a man reported to him that Ting Yüan had come out of the city with a small army and was challenging to a battle. Tung Cho went forth to accept the challenge, and the armies were drawn up in proper array. Lu Pu was a conspicuous figure in the forefront. His hair was arranged under a handsome headdress of gold, and he had donned a beautiful embroidered fighting robe, a Tiang Nai helmet and breastplate, and round his waist was a Mang belt with a lion's head clasp. With spear set he rode close behind his master. Ting Yüan, pointing his finger at Tung Cho, began to revile him. Unhappy indeed was this state when the eunuchs became so powerful that the people were as if trodden into the mire under their feet. Now you, devoid of the least merit, dare to talk of deposing the rightful emperor and setting up another. This is to desire rebellion, and no less. Tung Cho could not reply, for Lu Pu, eager for the fight, rode straight at him. Tung Cho fled and Ting's army came on. The battle went in their favor, and the beaten men retired and made another camp. Here Tung Cho called his officers to a council. "This Lu Pu is a marvel," said Tung Cho. "If he was only on my side, I would defy the whole world." At this a man advanced, saying, "Be content, O my lord. I am a fellow villager of his and know him well, his bravery, his stupidity, his cupidity and unscrupulousness. With this little blarneying tongue of mine, I can persuade him to put up his hands and come over to your side." Tung Cho was delighted and gazed admiringly at the speaker, on Lai Su, a minor officer of his army. "What arguments will you use with him? You have a fine horse, the hare, one of the best ever bred. I must have this steed and gold and pearls to win his heart. Then will I go and persuade him. He will certainly abandon Ting Yuan's service for yours." "What think you?" said Tung Cho to his adviser Lai. "One cannot grudge a horse to win an empire," was the reply. So they gave the corrupter of morals what he demanded: 1,000 taels of gold, 10 strings of beautiful pearls, and a jeweled belt, and these accompanied Lai Su on his visit to his fellow villager. He reached the camp and said to the guard, "Please tell General Lu that a very old friend has come to visit him." He was admitted forthwith. "Worthy brother, have you been well since we last met?" "How long it is since we last saw each other," replied Pu, bowing in return. "And where are you now?" "I am an officer in the Tiger Company. When I learned you were a strong supporter of the throne, I could not say how I rejoiced. I have come now to present to you a really fine horse, 1,000 Lai a day horse, one that crosses rivers and goes up mountains as if they were the level plain. He is called the Hare. He will be a fitting aid to your valor." Lu Pu bade them lead out the horse. He was of a uniform color like glowing charcoal, not a hair of another color. He measured 10 feet from head to tail, and from hoof to neck 8 feet. When he neighed, the sound filled the empyrean and shook the ocean. Mark ye the steed swift and tireless, see the dust, spurned by his hoofs, rising in clouds. Now he swims the river, anon climbs the hill, rending the purple mist asunder. Scornful he breaks the rein, shakes from his head the jeweled bridle. He is as a fiery dragon descending from the highest heaven. Pu was delighted with the horse and said, "What return can I hope to make for such a creature? What return can I hope for? I came to you out of a sense of what is right." Wine was brought in and they drank. "We have seen very little of each other, but I am constantly meeting your honorable father," said Lai Su. "You are drunk," said Pu. "My father has been dead for years." "Not so, I spoke of Ting Yuan, the man of the day." Lu Pu started. "Yes, I am with him, but only because I can do no better. Sir, your talent is higher than the heavens, deeper than the seas. Who in all the world does not bow before your name? Fame and riches and honors are yours for the taking, and you say you can do no better than remain a subordinate. If I could only find a master to serve," said Lu Pu. The clever bird chooses the branch whereon to perch. The wise servant selects the master to serve. Seize the chance when it comes, for repentance ever comes too late. Now you are in the government. Who think you is really the bravest of all? Asked Luo. I despise the whole lot except Tung. He is one who respects wisdom and reveres scholarship. He is discriminating in his rewards and punishments. Surely he is destined to be a really great man. I would that I could serve him, but there is no way, I fear. Then Su produced his pearls and gold and the jeweled belt, and laid them out before his host. What is this? What does it mean? Said Luo. Send away the attendants, said Su. And he went on, Tung has long respected your valor and sent these by my hand. The hair was also from him. But if he loves me like this, what can I do in return? If a stupid fellow like me can be an officer in the Tigers, it is impossible to say what honors await you. I am sorry, I can offer him no service worth mentioning. There is one service you can do, and an extremely easy one to perform, but you would not render that. Luo pondered long in silence. Then he said, I might slay Ting Yüan and bring over his soldiers to Tung's side. What think you of that? If you would do that, there could be no greater service, but such a thing must be done quickly. And Luo promised his friend that he would do the deed and come over on the morrow. So Su took his leave. That very night at the second watch, Luo entered, sword in hand, into his master's tent. He found Ting Yüan reading by the light of a solitary candle. Seeing who came in, he said, My son, what is afoot? I am a bold hero, said Pu. Do you think I am willing to be a son of yours? Why this change, fair scene? As a reply, Luo made one cut at his protector and his head fell to the earth. Then he called the attendants and said, He was an unjust man and I have slain him. Let those who back me stay, the others may depart. Most ran away. Next day, with the head of the murdered man as his gift, Luo betook himself to Su, who led him to Tung. Received him with a warm welcome and had wine set before him. Your coming is welcome as the gentle dew to the parched grass, said Tung. Luo made seat himself and then made his obeisance, saying, Pray let me bow to you as my adopted father. Tung gave his newly won ally gold and armor and silken robes and spread the feast of welcome. They then separated. Thence Tung's power and influence increased rapidly. He gave ranks of nobility to his brother and Luo, who were leaders of the two wings, he himself being leader of the center. The advisor, Ju, never ceased from urging him to carry out the design of deposing the young emperor. The now all-powerful general prepared a banquet in the capital, at which all the officers of state were guests. He also bade Luo post a company of armed men and left ready for action. The feast began, and several courses were served with nothing to distinguish that banquet from any other. Then suddenly the host arose and drew his sword, saying, He who is above us being weak and irresolute is unfit for the duties of his high place. Wherefore I, as of old did I Yin and Ho Quang, will set aside this emperor, giving him the title of Prince Hung Nung, and I will place on the throne the present Prince of Chern Liu. And those who do not support me will suffer death. Fear seized them in its grip, and they were silent. All but Yuan Shao, who said that the emperor was innocent of any fault, and to set him aside in favor of a commoner was rebellion and nothing else. The empire is in my hands, cried Cho, and I choose to do this thing. Who will dare say nay? Think you my sword lacks an edge? If your sword is sharp, mine is never blunt, said Shao as his sword flashed out of the sheath. The two men stood face to face amid the feasters. When Ting by treacherous murder died, the loss was great to Yuan's side. The fate of Yuan Shao will be disclosed in later chapters.